How's that? Everybody hearing me okay tonight? All right, let me know in the chat if you're hearing me okay. Okay, we're for Throttle Up. We've already taken off, and we're going to start talking right away about being a great follower is the first step in being a great leader. Okay, Angel, you just chimed in. Can't hear me. How about right now? Can you hear me right now? Everybody hearing me okay tonight? All right, let me know in the chat if you're hearing me okay. Let's see. There we go. Okay, we're good. All right. Yeah, OBS did an update on me, and I'm not quite sure how that all works out yet. So I'll be asking my good friend Thomas when I run into him next to ask for some help about that. But so yeah, being a good follower. So when we talk about being a follower, I'm not talking about being a goody two shoes or a yes sir, brown noser kind of person like that. What I'm actually talking about is hi, Mike. Thanks for joining in the chat. What I'm talking about is being a leader in training. So I'm going to go back to my military experience, and my military experience tells me this. You have to learn to be a follower in order to be a leader. And what's interesting about that is if you look at the military, everything starts in ranks and moves up. You start out as a private, or in my case, in the Air Force, an airman. And then you get your first stripe, your second stripe, and you start to move up into the ranks. And what you're actually doing is you're being a leader in training by learning how to follow and how to follow properly. It's not always easy outside of the military because, military has basic training. They kind of beat that into you verbally, mentally, and, they tear you apart and rebuild you. And we can't do that in the commercial world. But what we can do is we can create an environment of learning. And when we create an environment of learning that you need to learn how to follow so that you can be a leader in training and take all of that experience of following and then become a leader. I don't know if you're following me here, and I hope you are. Let me know in the chat if I start to lose you. But the essence of being a great follower is that you're learning how to be a great leader. And a lot of times we can be in a position that, well, we might not like our leader, and it's hard to buy into that. But the reality is if you buy into the organization and you feel good about the mission, the vision, and the goals, then you can be a great leader. And I'm getting feedback again from the speakers, so give me a second here. I will be right back. Let me get that fixed for you. I really do apologize. Hang on one second. Okay, I am so sorry about that. I do apologize. So what I'm saying is that being a good follower in reality is becoming a leader in training, and being a great follower goes much farther than just taking orders and keeping your head down. When you learn these secrets of being a great follower, then you start to unlock leadership skills at the same time. Not everybody can be a leader, and you can't have everybody being a follower. it's kind of a tough subject to talk about. I mean, think about it. I was putting this together, and it was so easy to put a video together with all the content and the points that I wanted to bring across. But now I'm doing it live. And to be honest with you, my brain is going everywhere. So I would really love for you folks in the chat to just go ahead and chime in and start bringing up points about why it's so important to learn how to be a follower before you can be a leader. And help me out here, because it's really about you folks, not all about me. I don't want to just sit here and preach. I mean, my preaching was on the video that I posted earlier about, being a great follower will help you turn into being a great leader. But now is your time. It's our time to have that discussion. And let's have that discussion. So, one of the other things that I wanted to bring up is that, we all hear the saying about, practice what you preach. When you become a good follower, you're practicing what you're going to preach. And this was in that video that I posted. And what I mean by going to preach is you're going to have to make decisions, ask people to do things that you need done, and you also need the experience of being on that other side as a follower to bring that concept all together. And in reality, it's like saying, I'm going to ask you to do something that I've never done myself. Well, that's not quite fair, is it? If you're not willing to do something yourself, how can you ask someone else to do it? So, if you're not willing to be a great follower, how can you be a leader asking people to follow you? Kind of twisted, isn't it? Kind of a twisted concept. And let me know in the chat what you think about that. How do we encourage people to be great followers and instill in them that what they're actually doing is becoming leaders? I see Mike, Angel. I see a couple other people's in the chat. Why don't you go ahead and chime in on that? That would be great. So when you view yourself as a leader in training, you will see firsthand the mechanics of leadership. And hopefully someday you'll put these best practices into play. So again, it goes back to that question, how can you ask others to be great followers if you're not one yourself? So knowing and understanding the goals and plans of your team and asking clarifying questions, that's going to help you to be a great follower. Again, it's not brown nosing. It's not being a yes man, yes sir, all the time. I'm just going to do what I'm told, and that's it. What it really barrels down on is, are you someone that's going to ask the questions? Are you someone that's going to help motivate your team? Are you going to show enthusiasm for the goals and the projects that have been handed to you? Seriously, the bottom line is, are you going to promote what the company is asking for you? So you get two sides of the equation. Those that are going to grumble all the time. They're asking me of this. They're asking us of this. They're asking, they never know when to stop. Or you're going to turn around and you're going to ask the qualifying questions that will make you understand and help others understand on your team that what's being asked of you is really important and that you have faith that you're going to actually achieve it. So it's interesting, the whole concept of trying to be a good follower to be a great leader. And I'd love to know what your thoughts of that are. So go ahead and drop it in the chat. What are your thoughts on that? How is being a good follower a way of becoming a great leader. One of the other things that we have to talk about is when you start to become a good and great follower, some of the skills that you're going to need is listening and observation skills. And what do I mean about that? What I mean about that is start to listen. Listen to your environment. Observe what's going on in the organization. Angel chimed in. Thank you, Angel. Know what to expect through experience. Experience is something, and I want to touch base on that. Yes, when you start looking at yourself as a leader in training and you're going to start working on becoming a great follower, knowing that the end result is becoming a great leader, then you're gathering that experience that you need. That's how you get it. You're observing. And that's what I was just talking about. Listen and observe in the following stages. When you're listening and observing, you're gathering that information, because when you eventually become in the position of leadership, you want to know what worked and what didn't work. And you're also going to want to know the things that, well, in reality, made you feel good and made you feel bad. And I'm not talking about being snowflakes or anything like that. What I'm talking about is, how did your leader treat you, communicate to you? How did they effectively promote what they needed to be done? And how did you receive that as a follower? So you have to put yourself in the follower's point of mind. But it's not only that. It's knowing that regardless of the things that are thrown on you, that you understand what the vision, mission, and goals are for the company. You see, I personally believe that if you don't connect the vision, mission, and goals to the decisions that you make on a daily basis, then it's hard to get buy-in from your followers. And as a follower myself, when upper level management or leadership asks me to do something, one of the first questions I ask myself is, how do I connect that with where we are and where we're going as an organization? It's very important to know where we are and where we're going. So by actively listening and observing, you're going to start to discover the potholes that are on the road of business. So I discussed this in the video, and if you haven't watched the video, go back and watch it after the live stream tonight. So the road of business is a nice smooth road, but sometimes it has potholes. And by listening and observing, you start to identify those potholes. And they're basically deficiencies. They're things along the way in business that maybe are not being observed. They're not top of mind. But you know what? If you hit one of those, bam! The whole car shakes, the whole business shakes, and you might be on smooth surface after, but they certainly get annoying. So in the follower sense, you start to observe and you start to listen and you start to identify these potholes. So, being a great follower gives you the opportunity to identify potholes and bring them to your leadership's attention. Now, caution, do it constructively and always have a solution. Nobody wants somebody that keeps coming to them day after day. Oh, this is broken. This is a problem. This is a problem. This is a problem. You need to fix it. What usually happens is that person causes pain. We want to eliminate pain, and we don't like pain. And when you hit problem after problem from this individual all the time, believe me, it becomes annoying because you don't need to come up with all of the answers. It's not your job as a leader. But when we put ourselves in the shoes of the follower, we want to teach followers that a great follower is a person that identifies problems and comes with solutions. Doesn't have to be the right solution. Any solution that you bring to the table is a foundation to work on solving that problem. Hi, Elliot. Thanks for joining us. I just saw you pop into the chat. So, being a great follower, and just to recap that, you have an opportunity to learn how to be a great leader because you're observing and you're listening. Now, if you do observe and you're listening and you discover some of these potholes, bring it to upper level leadership. Bring your solutions. Sometimes you might be the solution to fill that pothole on the road of business. And if you are, please step up to the plate. Step up to the plate and fill that pothole. Because that's stepping into an area that's going to elevate you on your pathway to leadership. So in the chat, let's throw it out there. Let's throw in this big question. Have you ever discovered potholes in a business that you worked for? Did you bring up the situation to upper level leadership? Did they give you an opportunity to fill that pothole? Did you have solutions? Was it good? Was it bad? Let me know in the chat. How did that work out for you? Elliot chimes in and says every leader is usually led by someone else. Think about that. Yeah, you're absolutely right. In the military, we talk about the big circle of leadership. And I'm still leaving it open to that question that I just threw out there. So, give it some thought and chime in. So, Elliot, when you join the military, you have no stripe on your sleeve. You earn stripes as you move through the military. So think about it as a big circle. You grow in rank. The more stripes, the more people you have under you. You get to a point, and this is generals and everything. There's always someone above you, and there's always someone below you, no matter where you go. And that's why they teach you can never be a great leader until you learn how to be a great follower. What's interesting is that no matter how high you go, there's always someone to answer to, no matter how high. Even at the top levels of the military, eventually you're going to answer to the commander-in-chief, which is the President of the United States. And the President of the United States answers to who? Congress. And Congress answers to who? The people. And who are the people that join the military? That's us. And it's a cycle that goes in a circle and a circle and a circle. Okay? And I'm not saying all the people join the military, but in reality, it is a circle of leadership, at least in this country. Some other countries might be different. But, unless you're in a dictatorship or something like that. But that, in the long run never works out too well, obviously. But everybody always has someone to answer to. Everybody always has someone to follow. You can resist that and get nowhere, or you can embrace it. And it's difficult. Again, even just putting the content together for tonight's live stream is difficult because if you think about it, it's all up here, but to put it into words and to put it in a conversation is not so easy. Elliot says potholes. How about full of construction zone? Yeah, there is no ceiling in leadership. No, there isn't. No, you don't end up. It's very rare to end up at the top, and at the top you end up getting people that are willing to topple you down. So it's not easy. No matter how tall your ladder is, it can always be taller. Which brings up something else. And I know I'm going a little bit off topic, but I read an article today which was really interesting. And this goes back a few videos ago, and I'll share this with some of you privately. A lot of leaders will step on the rungs of the ladder to get to the top and cut every rung below them. And they find that they're stuck in a position where they have to defend where they are because there's no longer a rung below them to step on when they fall. And that was very powerful to me to look at that. Every leader that works their way up the ladder and gets to a level of success has had wonderful people that have helped them get there. And too many times we see that leaders that have worked their way up the ladder have achieved success but turned away from all the rungs that got them there. And that makes that place a very scary place. So I know that's off topic, but I just wanted to bring that up. I wanted to share it with you because that's an article that I just recently read, and it's kind of sticking with me. And I'm thinking I'm going to do a video of that in the future. But it really stuck with me that we have to make sure that every single rung that we use to become successful and to move up the ladder of leadership or the path of leadership, that again, it's like burning bridges. We all hear this, but this kind of hit me. Don't bust out those rungs. Make sure those rungs are there because life is all about ups and downs. And sometimes we have to take a couple of steps down off that ladder to move up even higher. So I just wanted to share that with you. I know I'm probably getting goofy right now, but let's get back on topic. I'm sorry. So, being a great follower, you have to become an ambassador for the company and for your coworkers. Now, what does that mean? Well, first of all, you want to discuss any questions you have about the company's vision, goals, and mission. And you want to help others, your coworkers, and other people. They might not be your coworkers, but they might be part of the equation also. You want to help them buy into what the company represents, the direction it's going in, and you really have to promote the positives of the company, not the negatives. That's really what being a great follower is. So I'm going to reiterate, and I'm going to talk about one of my favorite stories. And right now it's the story of the 3 stonecutters. Now I touched base on this in the video for this week, but I'm going to go in a little bit more detail. So there was a scholar who was looking at all the workers in a village. And this scholar came across the quarry of people who were cutting stone. Now, to preface this, this is back in the 15 and 1600s. And the thing that's special about this is you see these massive castles and these massive cathedrals and the stonework that went through, that was involved in building these massive structures. And they're still there today. Most stone cutters in those days never saw the finished product. As a matter of fact, it was 2 generations. So dad started cutting stone, son, who followed in his footsteps, cut stone, and if son was lucky, he saw the finished product. But in most cases, stone cutters never saw the end result of their work. So this individual, this scholar, went into the quarries and he asked, "What do you do for a living?" And the first stone cutter said, "I cut stone. I cut stone. That's what I do every day. I come to work, cut the stone, and then I go home." And the scholar went to the next person and he said, "Well, what are you doing?" And the next person said, "Well, I try to cut the best stones that I can every day. I make sure they're square. I make sure they're the right size. I want to make sure that when I don't want to say master, but in those days that's what they were called. When my master picks up these stones, he knows it can be used anywhere that he wants to put it." And the scholar asked several other people, but he finally came across the third stone cutter. And he asked the stone cutter, he said, "Well, what are you doing?" And that stone cutter turned around and looked him straight in the face and said, "I'm building cathedrals with every stone that I cut." And, it was surprising that the scholar stopped for a minute and thought, I have a stone cutter that just cuts stone. I have one that just wants to be a perfect stone cutter. And I have someone that says what he's doing isn't even cutting stone. What he's doing is building cathedrals. I want you to think about that. Are we building cathedrals, or are we just another cog in the wheel? And when we look at it that way, we can turn around and say, you know what? It's important that we understand how to be a great follower so that someday we will become great leaders. Because as the 3 stone cutters tell us, is that you can just be a cog, I cut stone, or you could be part of the vision, mission, and goals of what's going on around you. That's really powerful. I love that story. Well, let me know in the chat what you think about that story. I hope you enjoyed it. And it is one of my, seriously, one of my favorite ones. Even at work, I go to work and, I'm leading a team, and, we come into some difficulty, and every once in a while it hits me though that story, and I say, am I just a cog in the wheel today? Or am I something that's part of the bigger picture? And it really does help. It really does help. So I hope you take heart to that story. So moving forward, you have to know when to lead and when to follow. Some of the greatest leaders know that they don't know everything. And seriously, none of us do. So not everyone can be a leader. The world needs both leaders and followers. So if everybody was leaders, Nothing would get done. And if everybody was followers, well, guess what? Nothing's going to get done. And knowing how to be a great follower is definitely a learned skill. And a final skill is learning humility. If you truly have your team and your organization's well-being in mind, you will promote everything with a sense of humility. You're going to have to let others lead when they're better suited, and you're going to have to learn how to follow when you don't have the answers. Now that's really interesting, isn't it? Because sometimes we fight that urge that because we're leaders or we're in a position of power, that we have to have all the answers. Sometimes we have to let go and let the right person lead at the right time, and we have to step back and be the follower. So I'm opening up the chat, and I want you to know. I want to know what you think about how being a follower is a great way of learning how to be a leader. And I know again tonight it's a short live stream. The content is very pointed. I don't want to fluff it out. I was very direct. But I really want to hear from you guys. What do you think? What do you think about leadership and following? We have to have both. Some people are not even built. I wish I could turn around and say everybody has a leader inside of them. Sometimes it's not true. Some people are very, very comfortable and they're more effective as being a effective leader, follower. And they're not going to be an effective leader. And that's just a hardcore truth. So how do we hit home with that? If you have people in your organization that may never become leaders, but we have to nurture if they could become supporters. So I'm going to let that stew for a minute as I do my regular commercial. If you're new here, I really hope that I've earned your subscribe. So please hit the subscribe button. And if you got anything out of tonight's video, please hit the like. If you're new here, we're live every Tuesday nights at 7 p.m. And at Pathway to Leadership, we're a strong community that's growing every day. We're a community of leaders. And our motto here is to learn and teach. Every day, learn, self-develop, and teach others what you know. And who we got? We got some chime-ins here. All right. Following is leading. This comes from Elliot, also known as serving. It's being humble. Leading is serving others and being open-minded enough to learn regardless of rank. Oh, thank you. That is awesome. Angels chimes in and says, I wonder that myself. Can I lead? Angel, I'm going to chime in on that. If the question is, can I lead? Well, that's where you bring in, like we talked about before, about that road that the business is on. If you're seeing and observing potholes, bring it up, constructively bring solutions, and if you happen to be the solution, step up, and you have to test the water, son. That's the only way you're going to know. Can I do this? Am I willing to do this? Am I effective if I do this? The only way you're going to know is look at those little potholes and start filling them one at a time. You'll be amazed at where you could be by filling little potholes. I don't ever want you to be discouraged. The world definitely needs followers, and the world definitely needs leaders. But we need an equal amount of each, because not everybody can be a leader, and not everybody is going to be content being a follower. So all I'm saying is that if leadership is not right for the individual, then they can be serious supporters, wonderful followers, role models. You can still be role models as a follower. Again, too many chiefs ruin everything. Too many chefs in the kitchen ruins the pot. Leading is not a title or position. Leading is influence. Everyone can lead in their own way. The question that one needs to ask is, how am I leading, and where am I leading? That's pretty good. That's pretty good. And there is always a situation where you're going to have to lead. So, one last example before we sign off tonight, and I'll sign off and leave it open in the chat. If you were ever in a situation where you witness an accident and lives were on the line, and you were the first person there, have you ever thought to yourself, what would you do? And I'm just thinking, would you be able to take control of the situation? Or would you be able to take direction? Think about that. Massive accident, cars all mangled up, people are hurt. You step out of your vehicle to go and help, and several people do the same thing. How do you handle that situation? Where are you in that situation? I want you to think of all the different scenarios. And I just want you to keep that in the back of your head as you're driving back and forth to work. If you were ever put in that situation, what are you going to do? And I think you'll be surprised, if it ever does happen, how many people never thought they could take a leadership role, and in an emergency crisis situation, they step up to the plate and they either take control or they're the strongest supporter to that situation. If that doesn't make sense, I don't know what does. It really does. I've seen and experienced many situations where I've run and taken control myself of the situation because the other people that responded didn't know what was going on or what to do. I was what I thought was the most qualified. And then there were situations where I ran in and I knew nothing compared to the people that were there, and I just supported. Knowing where you stand when it comes to following and leading, I think is the most important thing when you're on your pathway to leadership. So, I'm going to leave it at that. I'm going to leave the chat open a little bit. I really thank you all for joining us at Pathway to Leadership. I hope I've earned your subscribe. I hope I definitely earned your like. So go ahead and hit that thumbs up. And I'm going to see you next time on Pathway to Leadership.